Today on Running to Him.
God's commands about slavery eventually led to the abolishing of slavery itself. Today's reading is Exodus chapter 21, verses 1 through 11, and we'll be concentrating on verses 1 through 4. Exodus 21, 1 through 4 says, "Now these are the ordinances which you are to set before them. If you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve for 6 years, but on the seventh he shall go out as a free man without payment. If he comes alone, he shall go out alone. If he is the husband of a wife, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall belong to her master, and he shall go out alone." Now, when it comes to Old Testament passages such as the ones we are reading today, we almost throw up our hands and ask, how can God allow such a thing? The subsequent reaction will either build our faith in God or destroy it. The choice is ours. The first question we must ask is, what was the cultural stand concerning slavery in those days? First, slavery was a common practice as it is today in many countries in the Third World. Slaves were treated as cheap property. The owner would keep them alive just to get them to work, or if they fell sick or became old, the owner would get rid of them through starvation or murdering them. The Israelites were slaves in Egypt, and the scriptures tells us how they were treated. The second question we must ask is, how did these commands or laws differentiate the Israelites from the other people? First, God laid out a set of rules requiring that slaves be adequately treated. A slave was part of the family and was to be treated as such. This treatment ensured that the slave was well cared for. Even the rules of marriage were carefully prescribed. A Hebrew who was a slave could not serve any longer than 7 years. The third and final question is, why did God allow slavery? Now, this question is challenging to answer. Several options may be offered, but two different explanations may calm the question but not fully answer it. First, slaves in all the countries around Israel were chattel, or involuntary slaves. These slaves were generally mistreated, and were few laws, if any, protecting that slave. Second, in these verses and others, God lays out a moral and ethical way of treating slaves, and most of the slavery in Israel resulted from someone owing a debt. Slavery paid off the debt. The law required the Hebrew slave to be released after 7 years. The second answer is tied to the first. Just as the laws concerning not putting a son to death prevented Hebrews from honor killings, the new rules concerning slaves changed Israel's view of slavery entirely. William Wilberforce, a member of the British Parliament, used both the Old and New Testament arguments to end slavery in the British Empire in 1833. Society changes as God's principles are applied to the people. A lack of following God's principles causes people to slip into seeing evil as a good thing. We as believers are to treat everyone as one who God created. Taken to its fullest extent, that principle would abolish slavery and prejudice.
Thank you for listening. We pray that today's devotion was meaningful to you. We would love to hear from you. You can use either Facebook or YouTube to like, subscribe, share, and tell others about us. If you would like to contact us, you can reach me at phineasjacobus@runningtohim.net.